gentlemen, I'm calling this meeting to order. The November 21st regular City Council meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, Mackenzie, a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bob?
Here.
Councilmember Freeman?
Here.
Councilmember Green?
Here.
Vice Mayor West?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Here. Item number 2, public comment. This is comment addressing the City Council on items not on the agenda this evening. Do we have any public comment? No, sir. Please come forward. The reason for the cards is it helps the clerk to... A lot of them? Yeah, and it helps for organization and for the minutes after the fact. We're not trying to weed out for where people live. There's some people who are concerned. We do ask about where people live, but that's not... There's no reason for that.
Okay, I'll be brief. I just don't have a kind of a heads up for everybody. I'm Jim Ostick from San Juan Bautista.
Thank you.
We're working on a bicycle route that we have a ride next October 20th. It's a Saturday. It's going to start and it's going to be modeled after the former ride that was called the Condor Classic, if anyone remembers, and tentatively called the Discover Classic this time. It's being put on by the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce primarily, but a bunch of county residents are on a committee to organize it. And of course we want to bring it to San Juan Bautista and get people to stop here and eat and stay overnight and all that kind of thing. So just wanted to run that by you, let you know that I'll be trying to get in touch with you, Chris, and the Rotary Club. And we're going to need a lot of volunteers and discuss a place where we would have a food stop, first aid station in town, and we want to welcome the riders. Anticipate a few hundred riders, so
Fantastic.
Be fun.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's October 20th of 2018.
And Jim, you're going to ride around here. You're not going to cross country.
I might just watch. I'll probably ride, but not the whole 100 miles. There's a few rides. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other public comment? Jolene?
You might be going to bring this up, but I thought I would mention the parade, December 2nd, put on by the Rotary. That's why I was approaching. I was going to make sure that Jim already had an entry, and if he didn't, I was going to invite him to join our entry, but he usually has his own. But you're welcome to be part of the Gypsy Cruisers if you want to bring a vehicle, if you haven't already registered. But anybody else, Tony's part of the Gypsy Cruiser entry. But there'll be a parade December 2nd, starts at 6 p.m. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent items. Do you have any questions on the consent list? A little different. Added a couple items, it looks like.
Move to approve.
Second it. Thank you. Mackenzie?
Councilmember Bob?
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Green?
Yes.
Vice Mayor West?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, number 4, presentations, informational items, and reports. We're going to start with a proclamation. declaring December 1st, 2017 as Margie Shingai Day in San Juan Bautista. Whereas Margie Shingai was born December 1st, 1917 in Watsonville, California, and whereas she married Isaac on December 5th, 1938, and whereas the Shingais purchased a farm at San Juan Bautista before the Second World War, and whereas they returned to the farm after the war, and whereas Margie worked the family farm alongside her husband until retiring at age 65, and whereas Margie is a devoted mother of 4 children and is blessed with a large family, and whereas Margie made many sacrifices to provide opportunities for her children, now therefore be it known that the City Council for the City of San Juan Bautista hereby proclaims December 1st, 2017 as Margie Shingai Day in San Juan Bautista. And I'll give that to you. Thank you very much, Tony, for delivering that at her 100th birthday party this weekend. It's pretty exciting. Very cool. Okay. Treasurer's report. Do we have the treasurer? We do not.
Don't see them.
Mr. Tweez.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the monthly treasurer's report, which includes, in addition to the warrant list, a summary of financial activity for this current fiscal year versus last fiscal year and versus the budget. And I'm pleased to report that with respect to the budget, the revenues are higher than you had anticipated and the expenditures are lower. So the general fund balance is better off than had been anticipated in the budget that you adopted earlier this year. With respect to the warrant list, you may or may not have questions, but I wanted to take this opportunity to respond to an item that was on the warrant list at a prior meeting. Recall a question was raised as to what was the nature of the payment to an engineering firm called CENG. I reported to you that that is a firm that does geotechnical peer consulting work, and that it was attributable to the Copperleaf project, and I was going to check to see whether it was reimbursable. The good news is that it is reimbursable, in fact has been reimbursed, but we had miscoded. It was not for Copperleaf, it was for a different project, the so-called Midnight Express project that is being processed right now, but those costs have been reimbursed by the applicant.
Any questions, gentlemen?
I'd just like to know which roof Gary Welch did.
The Corporation Yard Boy Scout building.
Got it.
That was in the budget as well. And those savings, that project saved $2,000 or $3,000, as I recall, against the budget amount.
I'd like to ask about Cooper Controls. What is it? And
Cooper Controls provides, helped repair and upgrade the flow meter at the wastewater treatment plant.
And the hydrometrics is the water meter payment, correct?
Hydrometrics is a water consultant that is doing the necessary work for us to submit a permit to the state of California for drinking water for well number 6.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay. Sheriff's report, we don't have a sheriff's report. We had the quarterly report last month. Any questions on the level 1 report? Any questions from the public? Yes, sir.
I have one question. 3 times in here they found I'm presuming it's a bathroom up there by the school.
Yeah.
The door.
Unlocked, yes.
And Bob Cozy and I worked on that for days trying to get that lock to work. It's supposed to lock, I think, at 7 or 8 o'clock. And is it not working, or?
We'll have to check.
Okay.
Well, and I'm wondering if somebody's blocking it open so they can use it after hours. That's something that we should probably be aware of.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the level 1? No? Anything from the public? No? Okay, the library report. We have no fire chief's report. I believe the chief's been deployed, so that may be why we're having a little tardiness with the fire chief's report. The fire chief's on, I believe he's been activated, he's in the service, and I believe he's been, I think he was deployed down to Texas or Florida after the hurricanes. So he's, I know the fire committee meetings were canceled too, so I don't know if that's related, but anyway. Okay, administrative report. Ed?
Mayor, members of the council, I provided for you a written report. If I want to comment on the format, I just sit down and describe all the activities of the preceding few weeks. I have nothing further to add at this point.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen?
Number 7, with Assemblyman Caballero and Caltrans pedestrian, I presume that's at the 156 Alameda crossing?
Yes, you may recall as a condition of approval for the so-called Copperleaf subdivision, that Copperleaf is to install a protected pedestrian crossing on the east side of the intersection.
Okay.
There are pedestrian crossings on the other 3 legs. This would be that would connect directly from their side of the street to the school. Seems to be an appropriate condition of approval. Caltrans so far has been balking, and I had mentioned to the Assembly members' staff that her assistance in getting Caltrans to help us would be appreciated.
Okay. About 2 years ago, Jolene, another gentleman, and myself did get Caltrans to extend the time on the crosswalk there on the other side, the western side, where it already exists. It was set, what was it, Jolene, maybe 30 seconds, and we got it extended to 45 or 46. It's still, you still have to hurry across to get across all 4 lanes plus the left turn lane, et cetera. You know, it's not necessarily an easy task. Caltrans doesn't really want to change their timing.
They know better. Okay. Any other questions on the administrative report? Any public comment? Okay, moving right along. Public Works report. Yes, ma'am.
So they're not going to do the pedestrian crossing, or what? Because in your general plan and all that kind of stuff, it is supposed to be a connection across them.
Sure.
So is it not going to go, or is it just going to work out, or?
We don't know yet. The answer is we don't know yet. I believe, Ed,
Your
correct?
metric says that you're supposed to be able to get across that highway.
No, understood. We absolutely want that to happen. He's made contact with Caltrans. They have not been responsive or receptive, and so he's taken it up a level to our local assembly member to enlist their help in getting Caltrans to move on that.
Well,
But
in
it's
your metrics that it does happen, so.
I don't know what that means.
On your strategy plan, if you read through all the stuff, is this
Sure.
connection to the trail and anything on the other side. So
Right.
there should be some little bit of leverage.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's our plan, not their plan. So we have to. Caltrans is not fun to deal with. So we're doing what we can, and we'll continue to pursue that. So, okay. Okay. Oops, excuse me. Yes, ma'am.
Install iron manganese treatment plant at well number 5. So we were not able to change the level where we would be getting the water, and so it's going to have a treatment plant. Is that
Ed?
correct?
Yeah, so well number 5 is the new well being constructed on San Juan Hollister Road. We had a water quality test taken and suggests that at various levels, including the most productive levels of the well, there is iron manganese at levels that require treatment. So that will be part of the installation of that well.
Is it a very expensive treatment, or is it an easy fix, or do you have any details?
It's relatively straightforward to do. It's perhaps as much as $120,000, $130,000 to install. The ongoing operating costs are minimal.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so that takes us to the Public Works report. Ed, any questions on that?
I like that it's in big letters, so I don't have to use my glasses.
That's what I wanted to point out to the council. So we've made some modest changes in format, including releasing the all caps lock key.
Probably was.
Okay. Any questions on the Public Works report? No? Any questions from the public? Any comment from the public? No. Okay, no. Moving right along. Monthly construction progress report.
Mayor, members of the council, this is the first of a series of monthly reports that you've requested on the status of progress on the two subdivisions. It's been prepared by our contract engineers, Harris & Associates. Although they aren't here this evening, I think it's pretty straightforward. And as I indicated to you at an earlier meeting, we will have our comprehensive report on Rancho Vista at the meeting in December.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions from the council?
I'm just wondering what's going to happen with those two homes that are floating around. That's all.
I don't know what that means.
The ones that were moved by Roger, you know.
Oh, the lot
Yes,
readjustment?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
well, I don't think we're at that point yet. So we haven't,
That was
they
one of
haven't,
Roger's options. It'll come back to us on a final map and whether we approve it or not.
have you had any communication with them? Any idea when we might be seeing the final map application?
Not specifically on that point, but as I indicated, our comprehensive report will be on December the 19th. I'm sorry, is that the council meeting?
I believe so.
And they are aware that at that meeting, there's got to be a solution.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Because I'm just saying, it would be a lot easier to change things before they pave and put in
Yeah.
permanent pieces of
So
construction.
most of the concern has been about what they call Phase 7. It's the area off 3rd Street.
Yeah.
And recall that they have made a voluntary commitment to which they've lived up to not do anything further than the rough grading
Right.
for that site.
Good. Okay. Any other questions, comments on the report? Any questions, comments from the public?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Are we in negotiations with the people across the street for the roundabout?
Question is about the roundabout on First Street.
Yeah.
A condition of approval for Rancho Vista was the construction of a roundabout at their main entrance there that requires the dedication of right-of-way from people across the street. The family's called the Loesas. They intend to submit a parcel map for development on their site, and in that parcel map, they will dedicate the necessary right-of-way for the roundabout.
Okay, great.
Okay. Moving right along. Reports from City Council appointees to regional organizations and committees. John, we'll start with you. Anything to report?
The last AMBAG meeting was conflicting with the city council meeting, so I did not go. I have no idea. The Water Resources Board, the only real change was they were going to have an open house on the new water treatment plant, and it was the weekend it rained, and the water treatment plant is in a rather muddy area. The parking lot is not a parking lot, it's just a dirt field. So they decided not to have the open house. That's the news out of Water Resources Board.
Okay. Tony, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, COG, number one, we're pursuing this sales tax initiative for the November 18 election, and we have hired a EMC research to do a telephone poll, just like we did last time, and so that we can get the ballot written correctly, so people are going to be hopefully happy with it. And the only thing we've at COG is we need to do a sales tax thing so that we can become what they call a self-help county. That enables us to get more money from the state, hopefully. And the real stumbling block is that everybody thinks that SB 1 is going to cure all our problems, but SB 1 is now in a lawsuit, plus a assemblyman has filed I guess another, I don't know exactly what it is, to revoke SB 1. So SB 1 is up in the air, although San Juan was only going to get $40-some thousand out of it. So, but the rest of the county is, if SB 1 goes down, we're going to really be short. So anyhow, we're pursuing a sales tax thing.
Okay, thank you.
What rate are they asking for?
We really haven't decided that. That's going to be the poll. It's anywhere from a half up to 1%. And what we were kind of looking at is all three jurisdictions have a different sales tax. And maybe if we could even that out somehow, and actually the county is the lowest one, and they should bring theirs up at least equivalent to Hollister.
Okay. The intergovernmental and fire committee meetings were canceled this month, so I did not have any meetings. Yeah?
I did not need to alternate for anyone.
Good.
LAFCO is shut down until January.
Okay.
That's why.
And when LAFCO's not working, we're good.
Okay. Okay. Strategic Plan Committee report. Do you have anything from the Strategic Plan Committee?
They're just moving ahead on new options and new things to work on. We did a little housekeeping under the consent agenda.
Saw that.
So the two people that one's moved away and the other is in her health won't allow her to attend the meeting. So it's just
okay. So that takes us to public hearing items. Our first public hearing item, adopt an ordinance amending Title 10 of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code by adding Chapter 10-8 to provide an expedited permit process for electric vehicle charging systems. This would be the second reading and adoption, if passed.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is the second reading of an ordinance that's required by the state of California to expedite the permit process for electric vehicle charging systems. So we looked at this, I believe, 2 meetings ago, and this is just a second reading, so I would recommend approval.
Okay. Any questions, council? Any public comment? No? Okay, moving right along. Rachel, did you have something?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay. There, sorry, did you have a question? No? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I hesitate to make it because electric cars are going to kill my love. But I'm old enough that I don't think it's going to happen before I'm gone. Me and Tony were safe because they're never going to take the internal combustion engine out of our dead cold hands. But ordinance number 2017-39. An ordinance of the City of San Juan Bautista amending Title 10 of the Municipal Code by adding Chapter 10-8 to provide an expedient permit process for electric vehicle charging stations.
Second.
Councilmember Pop?
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman?
yes.
Councilmember DeBrey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor West?
Yes.
Mayor Marcolona?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion, as stated by the maker, passes unanimously.
Okay. Item B, adopt an ordinance adding Chapter 5-14.6 to the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code to ban marijuana sales, cultivation, and delivery. And this also is a second reading and adoption.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is the second reading of an ordinance that you've looked at twice now. First, you looked at it before it went to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission reviewed it and recommended approval, and you approved it for a first reading. By approval tonight, we'll have to wait 30 days before it goes on the books, and it'll give me just enough time to lodge it with the state, so the state will know to not start issuing licenses on January 1st for San Juan Bautista. And then in the interim, as you know, you're working on a comprehensive ordinance for licensing according to what the city would like to do rather than what the state would like to do. And that will be going forward next year. But in the meantime, I urge you to vote for the second reading so that I can lodge this with the state in time to prevent licenses from being issued in San Juan Bautista on January 1st.
Okay. I've already registered with the Bureau of Cannabis Control the current ordinance and have, I think, the information to upload the new one once it goes active.
Okay.
So that's why I was touching base with Ed earlier, but there was a survey that went out and had to be completed, I think, last week. So we did do that.
Okay. I'll touch base with you before I load it up again.
Good. Any questions, comments, the council, anything? No? Dan, no? Okay. Pardon me?
Anybody in the public?
We're getting there. Do you have any public comment on this item? No? Okay. Yeah, I am too. Well, I think hopefully that's a sign that we have communicated effectively on this question. So, good. Okay, so, do we have a motion?
Do we have a number for that one?
40?
Ordinance, it would be 05.
05. All right, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista adding Chapter 5-14.6 to the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code to ban marijuana dispensary sales, private outdoor cultivation, and deliveries.
Second.
Okay. Mackenzie?
Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman?
Yes.
Councilmember DeVries?
Yes.
Vice Mayor West?
Yes.
Mayor Marchulana?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker party.
Okay. Item C, adopt change to Youth Commission ordinance decreasing membership to 7. All right. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to add just a little background.
Yes, sir.
The original number was 11, and it was patterned after a youth commission in the city of Gilroy, and I believe they had either 13 or 11. But I would remind everyone here that Gilroy has a heck of a lot more people than we do and a lot more kids to choose from. So it's just kind of getting things in proportion.
I don't think we'd ever met that membership stat.
No.
Okay, that's right. Good. Any other comments, questions from council? No? Any public comment? Okay, moving right along. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Let's see where. On ordinance number 017-06, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista amending Article 2 of Chapter 2-3 of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code entitled Youth Commission.
Second.
Thank you. Mackenzie?
Councilmember Bach?
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman?
Yes.
Councilmember DeVries?
Yes.
Vice Mayor West?
Yes.
Mayor Marchulana?
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay. Action items. A, recommendation, approve job specifications and authorize recruitment for a Public Works and Utilities Director.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, 90 years ago, in 1937, a presidential commission made a recommendation that was famous among public administration nerds for its opening line. The president needs help. The city manager needs help. And this recommendation addresses how to provide assistance. You have previously had a report from me regarding the various functions of city government, how we might staff them directly with employees or with contractors. Recall that my predecessor thought that the help was best in the form of a community development director as a full-time staff person. My own judgment is that we can perform those functions with contract and be more useful to have the full-time staff person be responsible in the public works area. But in any event, we can recruit for one, community development, because you've previously authorized it. We can't recruit for public works until you authorize the job specification and say so. But I anticipate that the next city manager would want to have the flexibility to decide what kind of help is best needed, given the need for a professional staff person on the staff. The position that is recommended here, Public Works and Utilities, would be a department head position. Its range, salary range, would be exactly the same as the Community Development Director, which was what Mr. Orbach held when he was with us. In terms of the budget, I anticipate that this position would be funded by special funds, capital projects, and only slightly by the general fund. But toward that end, as I said earlier, we'll be coming to you with budget recommendations for the mid-year budget in January, and we can specify precisely where. But I think this is a position that is important to provide focus to these activities. In the past, our goal seems to have been to save money. That's an important goal, but it was, but we weren't getting projects done. So we need to do both. We need to be efficient and we need to be effective in delivering projects, and I think this position would be most helpful to the city manager.
Great. Any questions or comments?
Well, my comment would be, isn't this really an assistant city manager just kind of specializing in a few certain areas?
Well, the job specification does indicate that this individual could serve as the acting city manager. I see a range of staff responsibilities that fall within the heading of Public Works. So if it was an assistant city manager position with broader responsibilities, we would have called it that. I think it's limited to Public Works.
Okay. Tony? No. No? Okay. Any public comment? Questions or comments? No? Okay. Wow. We are blazing through here. Okay. All right. So the recommended action is to approve the position description. So what's the process here?
So it would be appropriate if you concur to adopt a motion to approve the job specifications that are attached to the staff report and authorize the recruitment.
Okay.
You need a motion for that?
We do.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Then you think you had a question, maybe?
No, just that approving this position description.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Mackenzie, vote please. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Bosch.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman.
Yes.
Councilmember DeVries.
Yes.
Vice Mayor West.
Yes.
Mayor Marciano.
Aye.
All members of the council being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So, item 7, discussion items. Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee report. I'm not sure that we have anything to add. We should probably just advertise our public meeting, unless you have anything.
No, I would just, Mr. Mayor, I'd comment that the ad hoc committee met again last week, Thursday morning, I think. Went over the draft ordinance again, had some follow-up items that we are working on with the consultant, and very much looking forward to making the presentation on December 6th, 6 p.m. in this chambers, and receiving public comment on that, and we'll take it from there.
Good, okay. So the date for that is December 6th? We're going to have a public meeting, and it will be, I believe we're noticing it as a joint meeting of the City Council and the Planning Commission, so that we can have everyone in attendance and take public comment on the draft agenda that is posted currently, and any other material. There will be a presentation then followed by public comment.
Mr. Mayor, it might be helpful to again remind people, as you have, that the purpose of the town hall is to present some initial ideas and to get feedback. It is not the intent at the town hall meeting to take any action one way or the other.
That's right.
That will be subsequent to the town hall after the subcommittee's had a chance to review the comments.
Right. So we'll be taking the feedback, we'll be taking public input from the Planning Commission and the Council. Dan and I, as the ad hoc committee, will go back with the consultant and work on incorporating as much as we see as deem appropriate, and then coming back at a later date to the full council and the city with a recommended ordinance.
That's right.
Basically, as well as rules and regulation. Excuse me, for those for the cannabis businesses.
Is that going to be 6?
Sorry?
6 p.m.?
Yes. Okay. Discussion item 7B. Yes, ma'am.
I have a public comment.
Yes, I apologize. Please come forward.
I believe that too much time, energy, money, and effort is being spent on this cannabis issue. Continue the ban until you resolve and make headway on the issues that have been brought before you that have not been resolved. The water issue, code enforcement, traffic, animal control, and hiring of permanent staff. These are some of the issues that impact the community's residents' everyday lives. Be proactive, not reactive. Finish pending issues first. Do not be enticed by possible uncertain revenue gain. Generating revenue is good, but not at the expense of residents' quality of life. I am not saying never ever allow cannabis. I'm saying resolve current city issues first.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
100% agreement.
Okay. And yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Carl Sailing. I'm a San Juan Bautista resident. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've been a successful businessman since I was 16 years old. I'm now 48. I'm 100% for legalizing and regulating cannabis. I am a cannabis business owner. Because nothing was happening in Hollister, I've opened up my first division of my company in Hollister. I will be paying Hollister no less than $1 million a year in taxes. No less than that. So think about that. I know $1 million a year to San Juan Bautista could do a lot of good for a lot of people. And I want to be a part of that. So I'll be here on the 6th at 6 p.m. to help out in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's true. $1 million bucks.
Any other public comment?
Good grief.
Okay. Anything else from the council? No. Okay. That's then moving on to item B, code of conduct. This has been a tough one I've been working on. John's given me provided some material for review that has got me thinking about it in a variety of different ways.
It gets confusing occasionally. But
it's, how far into this question and how detailed do we want to get is part of the question. What I'd like to do is create an ad hoc committee with you, John, and you and myself to work on that. Are you open to that?
Yes, I am. I'm in favor of it 100%.
Terrific. Then we will do that, and we will report back at a future meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Any comment, questions? Okay, we go.
There's a comment, there's a public comment card, Rachel.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one of the things that I think would be good in the code of conduct is fairness. Either all speakers use speaker cards or nobody uses them. And all speakers be limited to 3 minutes of speaking or free-for-all minutes. And if it's hard to keep up with the 3 minutes, get a bell for this thing like the Board of Supervisors has, or one of you council people be the timer.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, moving on. Item C, discussion of alleged Brown Act violation or violations concerning agenda item that recommended the removal of the chair of the Planning Commission without cause. That's from our last meeting.
Mayor, I move to postpone this indefinitely because Government Code Section 54960.1, parentheses A, and the parentheses B, state that there must be a notice on demand to cure and correct must be given in writing. I don't think there's been one.
So just to address that particularly, that would be if a citizen or the district attorney brought a complaint against the city council, then they would file a written demand for a cure. There's also a remedy if there is a Brown Act violation for the city council to note it themselves, as is on the agenda tonight.
It doesn't say that in the code.
Let her finish, please.
Okay.
Continue.
That's the best that I know without looking at this and researching it. But that is what I know, is that the district attorney, grand jury, or a citizen, 30 days from the meeting, can bring a written complaint to the city council that there was a Brown Act violation, and then the city council has the opportunity to cure. There's also an ability, from just what I know from Brown Act training, from the Attorney General's Brown Act guide, etc., that the city council can cure themselves. They obviously don't have to give themselves a notice because they are the city council. So.
Well, it doesn't say that in the code. So I know there must be case law, and I'd like to see that case law. And meanwhile, I'd like to table it or just move. This is a divisive issue. I think we just need to move beyond it. We will address it with the code of conduct.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable doing that because I was accused of violating the Brown Act. And like all accusations, if they're made in public, they float around and they get to be accepted. I'd like to explain my actions on this, if that's possible, if that's not appropriate.
Well, I agree with Jim. The accusation was made about Tony, you, me, and Jim. We were all, yes, you were accused of violating the Brown Act. And, it created a lot of discomfort and upset in the audience at the time. And I think it is, I agree with Jim. I've been accused of committing a crime. It is a criminal act. I've been accused of committing a criminal act, and I'd like to be able to address that. In fact, I do believe there was a Brown Act violation, and I'd like to address it.
I'm not disagreeing with any of your statements. I'm just trying to get rid of this on a procedural basis, because I just don't think it's going to be fun. Okay?
Well, I agree, but fun's not why we're here. So, you're free to make a motion, but...
Okay. I make the motion that we table the action item.
The discussion
item. Thank you.
Until when? Or just table it, is that okay?
Yeah, just
We don't
table
have to table it till a specific date?
Right, tables to a non-specific date.
Okay. Is there a second?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You said I violated the Brown Act?
No, I said you were accused of it.
Who accused me?
John Hopper.
John Hopper?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Hearing no second, the motion fails, I believe, so we will continue. And I'd be happy to start if, unless somebody else feels they'd like to. I'm going to make a brief statement. I've made notes, as I was suggested. Maybe we should step back a couple of steps, and you can talk a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing this, and what it is we're going to accomplish here, or try to accomplish here.
Okay, well, we're addressing a Brown Act violation that was made at the last meeting. And as I mentioned before, the Brown Act, well, I'll say that the Brown Act was amended in 2009, and so it is very widely applied at this point in time. It goes to, if there's a majority of the members of your body who are communicating, either directly or through an intermediary, to discuss, deliberate, or take action on any item of business that is within the jurisdiction of a legislative body, then you have a Brown Act violation. So that's pretty wide. It used to be that you needed to get a collective concurrence, and then this changed in 2009. So there are city attorneys out there that say, for example, that you can't post on Facebook, because if one council member is posting and two others are reading it, that's a Brown Act violation. So there are some very wide applications, and the allegation was made at the last meeting. It isn't within my purview to investigate that. If there was to be a complaint to the district attorney or the grand jury, they could investigate, but in lieu of a complaint being investigated, the Brown Act offers the City Council the opportunity to cure. So if there is a possibility that one of your actions may have inadvertently violated the Brown Act because it was conveyed to another person, or it was a matter of that you didn't think was going to be in front of the council at the time, then this is the opportunity for you now to cure that and disclose it. And what the courts say is that if it is cured prior to the complaint being made, then there will be no remedies by the court. So the court won't award attorney's fees to the other side. They won't bring any punitive charges, charge you any money. So it's a wise action to take if you think that something you did might even be perceived by the public to be some type of violation. And so just to go back to the last meeting, there was an item on the agenda to remove a planning commissioner without cause. And
that wasn't the agenda item. The agenda item was to remove him. The motion was to remove him without cause.
To remove a planning commissioner without cause, right. It was on the agenda. And it was, to my knowledge, based on some actions that took place at a prior city council meeting. And I think in this case, you're a small town, so there's the opportunity of people to meet in the street and talk about something that happened at a council meeting. And the question really is, when did that street talk rise to the level of, well, it can't be between intermediaries and another person in the council or between two council members. I mean, I'm sure that in a small town you talk often. World Series or your cars or what have you. So when does it rise from small talk to a Brown Act violation? And I think in this instance, the vice mayor asked that the matter be put on the agenda to take a formal action. And at that point, you really shouldn't have discussed that among yourselves if you knew it was going to be on the agenda. But like I said, there's some attorneys that take a very, very wide brushstroke with the Brown Act, and they think anything that you say that which is within the subject matter of the jurisdiction could be a Brown Act if 3 people talked about it. So with that said, I'm available for any questions, or you can get to your statements.
Okay. Do we have any questions at this point for the city attorney? Okay. Well, then I'm...
I still think that there hasn't been a Brown Act violation until there's been a written motion according to the government code. But let's move on.
Okay. So if no one complains about something, it's not a crime? That's your understanding?
In certain circumstances, yes.
Okay. Well, having been accused, I'd like to address it.
Okay. I understand that.
I'm going to read something, and then I'm going to go through my notes and describe the communications that took place. So I've made every effort in my time on the City Council to honor the letter and spirit of the Brown Act. I have never knowingly violated the Act. It seems that I have now been in violation through the actions of another City Council member. Tonight, I will detail the communications I've had with each council member regarding Chairman Hopper since the meeting of October 24th. And I'll go through each of the council members and the communication on this subject specifically. So with Council Member DeVries, I commented to him in an unrelated conversation. It was not specifically about Chairman Hopper. I commented to Councilmember DeVries that I believed Chairman Hopper was intoxicated during the October 24th meeting. There was no discussion, to the best of my recollection. Would you agree? Was that correct?
I agreed.
Thank you. Councilmember Bach, I have had no communication on this subject with you at all.
Sure.
Okay. Vice Mayor West. Vice Mayor West asked the city manager if an action item to remove Chairman Hopper could be added to the agenda of the November 8th meeting. I responded by saying that any member of the council could add any item they wished to the agenda, to any agenda, that didn't need to be approved by me. And I then called, I think a couple of days later, I called Vice Mayor West and asked him to contact Councilmember Freeman prior to the publication of the agenda. I asked Jim as a courtesy to tell John that this item was going to be on the agenda for that meeting. So there was no conversation about the circumstances. There was no conversation about the agenda item. It was just asking him to advise Councilmember Freeman that the agenda item would be on the agenda because I didn't want him to be blindsided by this issue. However, with Councilmember Freeman, I've had, I think, 4 conversations about Chairman Hopper's appearance at the October 24th meeting and its consequences. They were, to the best of my recollection, a phone call on or about the 26th of October, a second call intending to repeat the heads up that I asked Vice Mayor West to make on or about October 30th. We then had what I would call a chance meeting after the library mixer on November 9th. We ran into each other outside the library and had a conversation about it. And then finally, on November 15th, we arranged, on November 9th, we arranged to then meet later. That ended up being a meeting at Councilmember Freeman's home on November 15th. The subject of those 4 communications varied quite a bit, and I'll just sort of run through them. I expressed my grave concerns over the apparent intoxication of Chairman Hopper at the October 24th City Council meeting. I had shared my similar concerns about his apparent intoxication at the previous Parks Planning meeting. I expressed to him my grave concern over the damage to what I perceive as damage to the city's reputation, the city government reputation, and the breach of public trust on the part of Chairman Hopper. Councilmember Freeman told me that he had admonished Chairman Hopper for his appearance on October 24th. We discussed the operation of the Planning Commission and Councilmember Freeman's satisfaction with the operation of the Planning Commission, and my general satisfaction with the operation of the Planning Commission. We discussed the process for appointment and the sort of what I would describe as the balance of power on the Planning Commission. That refers to sort of the pro-growth and or anti-growth sort of camps that exist in the city. And the balance of power specifically after the departure of the former city manager. We discussed Chairman Hopper's medical condition. Chairman Hopper attributes what I would say is behavior during the October 24th meeting to his medical condition. Chairman Hopper, I expressed to John that Chairman Hopper had denied having been drinking on October 24th, and I related to him my conversation with one of the bar owners in town who confirmed to me that John had been drinking that afternoon, had been in the bar and had been drinking prior to the meeting. I showed Councilmember Freeman the 4, I think, text messages that I got after 10 p.m. on October 31st that were, I would characterize as threatening, not in any physical way, but threatening the city with lawsuits and that sort of thing. I can read those texts if anybody really wants to hear them. I also then gave Councilmember Freeman a copy of an incident report that was turned into the city by Level 1 Private Security with incidents on the 4th of May and the 5th of May where Chairman Hopper made what I would say are false emergency calls, and then went on to tell the Level 1 Private Security officer that he was a city council member. So he told the patrol officer that he was a city council member. We discussed Chairman Hopper's address to the public here during the November 8th meeting, rather than addressing his comments to the city council as is appropriate. We discussed the possibility of reviewing all of this material in a closed session, as has been suggested by a number of people, and frankly that's not possible according to the Brown Act. Chairman Hopper is not an employee of the city, and therefore we're not able to have a closed session to discuss this. And finally, we discussed my motion to remove Chairman Hopper without cause, and what I expressed to Councilmember Freeman was that I was doing that in an effort to avoid having to do this, describing all of what I would describe as transgressions of Chairman Hopper publicly, and let him quietly just leave the city Planning Commission. The intent of my original call to Councilmember Freeman was I asked him to ask Chairman Hopper to resign. So I believe that's a comprehensive accounting of the topics that we discussed. Would you agree, or is that?
I would pretty much agree with that. I don't believe you asked me to ask him to resign the sole meeting of the phone call. I do remember talking about a resignation, and I'm not comfortable talking about this. I don't like defending whether a person's intoxicated or not. That's not what I'm about, okay? People who know me know that...
John, we're talking about the Brown Act violations tonight. We're not talking about Chairman Hopper and the removal of Chairman Hopper. So
You want me to read my speech then? Would that be better?
I just want to make sure that we're discussing what constitutes the Brown Act violations and whether we've disclosed we've made public all of the, added to the public record everything that would constitute a Brown Act violation.
Well, so number one, let's start. I was called by, and I actually appreciate both yours and Jim's trying to not blindside me, but I just disagree with the act of throwing a person out for reasons not related to job performance. If he came to city planning commission meetings intoxicated and did a poor job at the city planning committee, I'd be the first to ask him to leave. But that's not what happens. Okay, so he saves his bad behavior for other venues,
where he's representing the city.
Maybe, but where I don't count it as job performance. The thing, what the Parks and Recreation that Dan had was not even an official city meeting. It was just, why don't we all get together and talk about parks, you know? So
is that part of the conversation? The Brown Act violation?
No, that's part of my explanation on why I'm talking about this. Okay, so first of all, I do appreciate you and Jim calling me and talking to me about it. I just disagree with the reasons, okay? And I want to make that clear. And I want to make it clear that he's doing a good job at his job.
Okay.
So we are getting rid of a person who's doing a good job, who's volunteering. I'm discussing what I want to discuss, okay? This is part of my speech. Okay,
John,
yeah.
We're not discussing
I'm going to discuss it,
want.
or we won't, okay?
John, do we need to have a recess
Yeah.
and discuss this?
No.
Then we need to keep this on topic.
It is. It's all part of the topic. You got to describe all of his transgressions, okay? So I get to defend him a little bit.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Okay, so, like I said, I appreciate it. I did talk with Councilman West about 3 p.m. Friday. I think it was the 24th or somewhere, October 24th or somewhere around there, whatever the date was on that Friday. And Jim communicated to me his reasons, okay? And so his reasons they've been talked about before, so I don't want to go into them. I argued against those reasons because I thought he was doing a good job at his job, okay? Sure. I didn't disagree with those other issues, okay? So, and then you called me at 1 p.m. the following Monday, and we discussed basically the same thing. And I think I tried to communicate with you. I disagreed with this. Yeah. I think that this council has a little bit of a habit of jumping gears. You know, it's like, isn't there an intermediate step between hey, he's a great guy and let's fire him? I mean, you know, that's what we're basically doing. You know, we're firing a person who's doing a good job. So it's a small town. Not everyone can do this, okay? And I have concerns about this. If he was an employee, he would be suing us for a lack of due process. You know, I'll guarantee you. So, and when I arrive at decisions that are hard for me, I make a list. You know, I make a list of pros and cons, and I think I'm fair. I have cons about Mr. Hopper and the job he does, okay? I also have the pros, and they outnumber him. Now, if you ask me about his behavior not related to the Planning Commission, well, maybe then that equals out. But I'm just defending him on his job at the Planning Commission. Tony tells me not to go to the Planning Commissions. I don't go, but I do have inside information. I asked the Vice Chairman, is he intoxicated? Is he rude to people? Does he run a bad meeting? Does he run a good meeting? I get full and complete answers. So I do have an inside advantage there.
The Vice Chair being your wife.
Yeah.
Those that don't understand.
Okay. I thought most people did. Okay. Jim talked to me a little bit about Mr. Hopper taking over for city engineer or whatever, going out to the Creek Bridge Division. But I'm going to remind the city council that we asked him to do that. Okay, so we asked him to investigate. At that time, there was still a previous city manager. A lot of people didn't trust that city manager. We got a lot of complaints about the community development director being rather rude to the Creek Bridge people. So we, the city council, instructed John to go out, and now we're getting mad at him for doing what we asked him to do. That's just not fair. You know, this is a volunteer job, and so I'm worried about this. Who wants to volunteer for a job where it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of study, and you can kick them off in a day? That's not something I would do. I guarantee you. I'm finished.
Thank you. Tony, do you have, pardon? I'd like to, Tony, do you have any communication on this?
I don't understand what John's talking about.
Can we, Tony, this is about the communication.
I want to know when I violated the Brown Act.
I'm not aware, I don't believe that you did, but I don't know, so I'm...
Did I talk to you about it?
I actually have information on that.
Okay. If you'd like to... Yeah, sure.
You know, number one, I don't like discussing this either. And you talk about a volunteer job where there's a lot of work and you're subject to charges of violating the Brown Act. I don't care for that. I think that's a bad way to go. What I will tell you is this was all very upsetting to me, what happened on our meeting on the 24th. And the following, I mean, you can't go anywhere. I can't go anywhere in this town. The Windmill Market, Vertigo's Coffee, the post office, the Rotary Club, even on the street, people stop me and ask me what's going on. I've gotten calls from supervisors, county planning commissioners. In fact, I got a call from Sheriff Thompson about this issue, wanting to know what in the heck we were doing down here in San Juan Bautista. Well, you know, he said, you guys are drinking the water down there, you know. And but what happened is I talked at the at the Rotary after the meeting. I heard you talking to somebody. You can't, it's a small room, I can hear that. I knew how you felt. I actually, you said call the city manager. I went to the city manager and I said, what can we do? And he gave me the ordinance that said you can remove without cause if you have a majority vote. At this point, I don't know, I've been on the city council for 3 years. I don't want to screw up anything. I don't want to make the city look bad. And so the one person that I trust on this, who's been on here, the senior city council member, I went to Tony Bach. And I said, Tony, this is what I'm feeling. This is Wednesday or Thursday. Would be the 26th when I got the ordinance. And I said, look at this. I said, am I being a fool? Am I hurting the city? Is this something I should just shut up and sit down? And Tony, I don't remember exactly what he said, but the essence was, no, you're all right. And so from there, I went and I didn't call you. You came over to my house and asked me about this. And I gave you a copy of the city ordinance that said you can remove any commissioner without cause city council. And so then we went more transpiring with the city manager, how are they going to award it and all that stuff. And I think it was the 30th of October that we finally figured out we're going to make this a action item. And I may be wrong on that. But we did that, and after that, I haven't talked to anyone. I didn't talk to the mayor because I know exactly how the mayor feels about it. I mean, the vote that shut the meeting down was a 3-2 vote, and those people are still feel that way. And I don't agree with you, and I would be the first to... What?
We're on the communication that took place that was potentially violating the Brown Act.
All right. So...
Your communication...
I communicated with Tony.
You discovered the communication with us, with me.
Yeah.
You've now discussed the communication with Tony.
Yeah.
Any communication with...
No.
Dan's the odd man now.
No, Dan.
He's happy as hell right now.
So, in openness, I also did not communicate with either Tony or Dan. Okay.
Now we're clear on that. Tony.
The only communication I had with Jim, now that I remember it, was he asked me if he should put it on an agenda, and I said, go ahead. I didn't talk about the circumstances, or I didn't even...
No, I asked you if that was going to be deleterious to the city of San Juan Bautista.
Yeah.
Because you're old.
But I still don't see where that would be a violation of the project.
That's
doesn't sound to me like it would have been.
Than me listening to the mayor talking to someone else at a Rotary meeting across the room, and because, this was a big issue. Everywhere you went, people talked about it.
Got it. We're talking about the alleged Brown Act violations this evening. We're not here to deliberate on Mr. Hopper, Chairman Hopper.
So I would like to add one last thing.
What's that?
During our conversation with Supervisor Botello and you and myself,
yes,
Supervisor Botello advised both of us not to do what we're doing. He very specifically advised us not to do what we're doing. He advised us to do it at the election time. So I'm taking his heed. Okay?
Got it. Thank you.
Then Supervisor Botello's giving me different advice.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
I presume everybody received a memo from Deborah.
Yes, that was privileged communication.
And
from the city
and to me, very clearly explained that we did not violate the Brown Act.
Well,
period.
That was my understanding of it also.
Well, I wouldn't agree, and I think...
because the thing was put on the agenda on the 30th of October.
Well, that may be. I think
that's when it was agendized.
Well, and there may or may not have been a violation. There was certainly the accusation on the part of two people that we had violated the Brown Act, and that's why I felt compelled to discuss it here.
But neither of us have made the accusation in writing, so it's not yet a real violation?
Well, and I think at this point, I believe we've cured the violation, and we can move on. Do you have anything to add, Deb?
Just the violation, if any, because I'm not sitting in deliberation on this, and I don't think anyone is. I think your intent tonight was not to admit anything, but just to disclose the communications you had.
Okay, good enough. Do we have any public comment on this item?
I'd like to say that...
Please come to the podium.
I just want to know really quick that this is how Men with Integrity act. And I've been to only one meeting, and it was a little bit of mayhem, and it is just... I feel honored to be here, and this is how I want to see my city officials present themselves and act. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Do we have any other public comment?
And I agree, in general, you are conducting yourselves very well. But if I may just ask what Mr. Freeman is referring to when he says the city council asked Mr. Hopper to investigate Rancho Vista project because the former city manager was being rude to residents of Creek Bridge.
No,
let me finish.
That's true.
I just don't appreciate the accusatory tone Mr. Freeman has taken in this, and that he took in the last meeting towards the rest of the council, because I remember from my ethics training, and you all should also, that is a big no-no on council, to accuse other council members of something like that. And that statement, ask Mr. Hopper to investigate Rancho Vista, I should certainly hope the council didn't ask the chairman of the planning commission to do that, because that wouldn't be right.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come forward. It's all right, please come forward. Introduce yourself, if you would, please.
My name is Shirley Brewer, and without addressing any of the pros and cons of anything, as a member of the audience, I was very confused. And as ugly and hateful as things are, they still need to be talked about in an open forum. And I appreciate what you're saying, Councilman Freeman, but I appreciate the way that everybody's conducted themselves in an honorable manner today. And thank you for talking about it where we can hear it, because it's clarified a lot for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was the goal. That was certainly my goal. Do we have any other public comment?
I think that it's not unreasonable for the public or the community to expect for all of you to conduct yourselves in, lack of a better word, professional manner. And I think that we should have those expectations of all our city officials, whether they're appointed or elected. And it was very disappointing that the actions and behavior of city officials not being in their full capacity is a detrimental to the community. And I think that that cannot be overlooked. And we have
Rachel, I need to interrupt you for a moment. I'm sorry, but I want to interrupt you. What this item, agenda item, is regarding the alleged Brown Act violations, not the behavior or the concerns that we may have or may not have about the October 24th meeting.
The Brown Act violations is that the individuals that are being talked about did not behave themselves. And so the Brown Act, I'm sure, says you guys are supposed to behave yourselves. And I'm sure that there's guidelines on how to behave, especially at a meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any further public comment? Anything else from the council?
I'd like to ask one question. John said that we sent Hopper out to investigate subdivision?
Well, that's beyond the scope of this.
Yeah, okay.
I believe that's beyond the scope of this.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. Then we are going to move on to comments. City council comments. John?
Comments on city council comments. Yeah, I do have a big one, okay. Today, a new store opened up in San Juan, a hardware store. A certain person who lives in Marina, so I can be a little cynical, or said that this would never happen. So, and it happened. So, I'm taking some pride in that.
Very good, thank you.
Wish them well.
Yes.
Tony?
Yeah, we've needed a hardware store. We need a drugstore. And
anything, Tony?
Other than that, no.
No, I have nothing. Dan?
I have nothing.
Okay. City manager?
No additional reports.
And our city attorney?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. We are now going to go into closed session. We have two issues. Do we need to break between those, or can we handle them both and then report back?
You can handle them both and report out after.
So do you want to do this? You're better, Deb?
Yes.
Do you want to explain what we're going into closed session for to the public here?
Sure, there's two closed session items. The first is the public employee appointment. So just to, I know this came up last time, and just to caution the public, this isn't a selection of the city manager. That has to be done at an open, regular meeting. This is just a discussion which we're allowed to do pursuant to the Brown Act. We're allowed to engage in an employment-type discussions. And then the next is conference with real property negotiator. The property owner is Dale Koch, and it's APN 002-055-009. And this is to discuss with our real property negotiator terms for the negotiation concerning that property.
Okay, so we have two conferences we'll be doing in closed session. We'll then return to chambers, go back into open session, presumably, report back on anything that needs to be reported back, and then presumably adjourn. And Ed, you said you expected these two to take an hour or more.
I believe an hour.
Okay. So, anybody that's interested in waiting outside, you're welcome to, but we're going to go into closed session. I would ask all of you to excuse us. Thank you.
I don't believe that the camera or the city clerk needs to stay.
No. And so we're signing off with CMAP. Thank you.